All right, count me in. Ta-da! Is it working? I just kind of danced on stream. I said I would never do that. What am I doing?
Karaoke's next.
Oh, it's I can see it happening. It's just these things just creep up on you, and then the next thing you know, you singing "My Heart Will Go On" with a lot of people at midnight, and you just want to just forget everything. I can see it happening now. It's gonna be a nightmare. I'm glad you guys could hear us now, and hopefully those nightmares of karaoke can stay long away in the future. All right, so we are back. Community update. I'm here with Tankzars in the background, who is helping us keep everything together and on schedule. And we've got Mr. PAINGOD here to catch up with you guys, talk about what the development team's been up to this week. And I believe there's an interesting picture behind you there, which I'm sure we'll talk about eventually as well.
Of course.
Okay, so what have we got going on? What have the team been up to over the last few days, and what can the community look forward to in the immediate future?
So things going on this week. We fixed the dead tank icon showing up. That bug that got fixed on Tuesday with a couple other fixes. We improved the KTTS radio range by giving it a new radio, which broke the tank, and it couldn't go into battle. I'm sorry about that. I hate when stupid things like that happen. That was fixed this morning, so that should be all good now. And then probably the biggest news, or the biggest thing going on this week, was Supertest and community contributors starting to get the first look at the next release, and getting the gobs and gobs of feedback on that and sorting through it and deciding what to do. I was just going through the map ones, so everybody's very happy about Westfield returning and El Hameen, and we asked them to suggest what tiers or eras should be able to play on the map. It's really interesting to see what comes back and the suggestions people have. So thanks to that team for doing that and catching bugs that we didn't catch. And they'll be looking at a bunch of new content very, very soon that I can't talk about yet. And then, hey, how about that announcement today on the Hasbro stream?
Yeah, that was
G.I. Joe in our logo.
It was, yeah. I don't know how far we can go into that, but we will be learning about that in the coming weeks. What we'll do is over the next few weeks, we've got a few streams planned, and as we're kind of approaching up to the release date, we will just fill you guys with everything that you need to know, like we always do. And I'm happy to say to you guys as well that we're going to start seeing the updated maps on Monday. On this Monday coming up, so Monday the 7th, I'm going to be doing insider information preview with you guys, and I'm going to grab a bunch of images of the updated maps, and we're going to start talking about them and having a look at them. And that's eventually going to roll into another one of our map streams. We're planning it out at the moment, but we're looking at around the 15th, probably Tuesday the 15th, that we'll be maybe looking at getting Brendan back. I know you guys all love Brendan's insight on the map, so we're looking at Tuesday the 15th that we'll be able to see these maps in action. I know it's been a long time for you guys waiting for things like Westfield and LLMane and Overlord, so I'm really looking forward to finally showing you guys
maybe even one more.
I'm hoping so. We'll see.
There might even be one more. The art team surprised us in a meeting yesterday and saying, yeah, this one's almost done if we can get everything else done in audio and spawn points. So I'll let Brendan give the final verdict on that on the 15th.
That's really great, yeah. So I'm looking forward to that with Brendan. The community always loves sitting down with Brendan, so it's going to be a good one. All right.
Oh, and then today, I'm happy to tell you I kind of pulled a last minute on the events team. So thanks to Lady Obscura and her group for doing this for me. But any minute now, I think by 2:30, so 23 minutes from now, there will be bonus ops to earn 20% extra silver in both Era 2 and Era 3. You probably all know that we made the 30% bonus op just part of the earn permanently as of this past Tuesday. So now, as I promised, we're experimenting with Era 2 and Era 3. See how that goes for the next 2 weeks. So this will run for 2 weeks long. It's not just a 1 day or 1 weekend thing. And we'll evaluate that and determine what those percentages should actually be and feed that back to you guys in the stream and make permanent changes once we see all the data.
Brilliant. I know that's kind of.
Sometimes it's got to be 22. Sometimes it's got to be 18, or like post-war was like, no, go to 30. I'm like, really? Yeah, go to 30. Okay. It seems like that's all going well.
Yeah. So that's going to be going. Did you say today for that?
Yeah, in 22 minutes.
22 minutes. In 22 minutes, you're going to earn a lot more silver in Cold War Era 2 and 3. Brilliant. All right. Cool. So.
And then that's, well, everybody knows, I believe, our next big update's at the end of this month. So all the other work is trying to make sure we get everything right and polished and break things that existed, that were working before. On Tuesday, we are going to have the fix for the icon getting stuck on white from the damage flash. There's a certain condition that could cause that. I just saw that fix went through and approved it to go out Tuesday. Don't know what else, if anything, is coming there on Tuesday, except for my magic trick. Well, it didn't work all that well.
One of the members of our community here, Great Graham, just said, the Churchill 3 skin. It looks like it's not a skin. It is not a skin. This is
talking about my picture?
I'm talking about your picture, yeah. The players were thinking that it's a skin, but it's not, is it?
No, that is the skin version. It's the A43 Black Prince prototype, which is a British. You can talk about it more. You know more about tank than me. British Tier 6 heavy, and that's with its custom skin that it comes with.
Yep, and we will be looking at that on Monday as well. Be good. So yeah, the A43 Black Prince prototype, British Tier 6 heavy, and this is its custom skin. It looks very authentic, so I'm looking forward to giving that one a whirl on Monday. We'll see that one on Tuesday. Cool. We're nearly ready to get stuck into the questions.
A couple more things here. We've gotten a couple fixes out with like reticle sticking on the side of smoke. We're still working hard on the barrel reticle popping up. There's someone dedicated to it 100%. Went into the code, found that code hasn't been touched in years, so we don't know what exacerbated the problem. It's always been there to some degree, but it is the highest priority bug to fix. And sorry, it's taking too long to get it fixed as it has. But all these reticle barrel things are deep in the server physics code, and they just take time. But it is a very, very high priority.
Share the extra context on that. I know the players are wondering. I know it seems like, and I think the same as well, because I'm not a developer. The extent of my creativity extends no further than Microsoft Paint. To me and to the players, it's like, this is so simple. Like, come on, let's fix it. But it isn't simple. So I appreciate the extra context, and I hope that.
Yeah, if you know what caused it in the first place, that makes it a lot easier to fix it. But we don't, like, the code literally have not been touched for years, and when that was last touched, that was a different engineer that's no longer at Wargaming. So we don't even have his memory to fall back on. So it's quite a bit of detective work deep in server code. So please bear with us. Like I said, it's the top priority to fix.
Mm-hmm. All right.
And then speaking of fixes, like I mentioned before, because we're getting close to a release, it's hard to churn so much in the live build because the branches get so far apart. But we're working on getting a list of all the fixes that are coming at the end of the month in the next release, and going to try to get that published to you guys early, at least the ones we already know and have verified that are fixed. But there are quite a few coming, so only a few more weeks.
All right, excellent stuff.
And then one last thing, thank you everybody for your feedback on the possible changes to the marks of excellent. Heard you loud and clear, and we will not be making any changes. We have retired and buried that project, and there will be no change.
Yeah, I think there was some elements of it definitely that the community was interested in, like being able to track the marks of excellence. But yeah, from what I saw as well, it's they like the marks of excellence, how they work. They just want to know where they are in the progress.
Yes, and they'll have that in the next big up at the end of the month. They'll have that progress.
And
that would be in the. We have such complicated names for things. You'll be able to see the percentage in the detailed stats for your tank at in the PBRS.
So in the PBRS, okay, excellent, very good. Oh dear. All right, cool. So, anything else on our list here, or should we get into?
That's everything on my list.
Okay. So if you guys haven't done already, please tag me in the chat for your questions, and I'm going to do my best to get through as many of them as possible. We've already talked about the MOEs and the bug where the gun elevates. Still a work in progress. There's still Thor Odinson asks about some of the PlayStation 4 Fat and PS4 Slim seem to still have the overheating issues. I know that on the forums it says that the team's still investigating that. Do we have any updates for some of the players that are still on some of the older PlayStation models?
Yeah, it's being worked on. There was a partial fix released. I think it was last week that did make it better. The fans are still kicking up, but from what I understand, the instances of them shutting down has lessened greatly. We believe we know, a way to make it even better, and that's being worked on right now. So we have a lead, and that's being chased on right now, but. It's definitely being worked on.
Okay. I'll just mention that Giggity Gooser asks, are we still looking at commander filters?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, that's something we've talked about.
Disconcerting when you're hearing your dog barking outside and you don't know why the dog's outside.
No. If you need to go and check, I can hold down the fort.
But yeah, I have them in my build right here, the commander filters. So you'll see that in the update at the end of the month for sure.
Excellent. Corporal Darren, World of Tanks Consult Academy. Can you perhaps break that question down into something small? It's just too long for me to read. With the chat moving so quickly, or you can whisper it to me as well. Corporal Punishment Gaming asks, do we have any plans for permanent +1, -1 matchmaking?
Well, there's no current plans for that. What there is a discussion going on to determine a course of action, what to do about that, right? Because I suppose one of the solutions is say, yes, we'll just turn it on permanently. That's not a make everybody happy solution. There are players that don't like +1, -1, because you can't earn as much in the match. But we could turn it on permanently, and it would cause a higher frequency of imbalanced matches, or having to be filled with bots. Won't cause fails because we have bots as a fallback, so there won't be any hard denials. So we're running a test. I believe it is next weekend, from the 11th through the 14th. We're doing a +1, -1 matchmaking event for World War II, and we're going to monitor to see if our predictions on the increase of the soft and the hard fails, which is a matter of how badly balanced it is. And that'll give us, the information that we need to decide how we move forward. Do we keep it as an event? Do we say this is just what most everybody wants, and do we make it permanently and balance the tanks to handle for that? I have seen requests to just break the World War tech tree into 3 eras and do era-based matchmaking in World War II. I've also seen people shout very loudly, "Don't you dare do that!" What the discussions are is there is a very strong desire from players for +1, -1. Why is that? And how do we approach this from a design aspect and solve and satisfy the players, rather than make team balance worse and stress out, and break the matchmaker. Matchmaker's incredible complex amount of code and conditions. I mean, I know Max Chaos has spent days, if not weeks, of his life trying to summarize and explain it, exactly how it works with all the different conditions. So every time when you give it another condition, you're exponentially making every problem it has worse. Again, we're going to do that test to see how viable it is to continue doing that as events, but we have determined if this is a problem we need to solve, +2, -2 matchmaking was a core part of the design, and was on purpose, right? It's how the game was designed, how it was built, how the tanks were balanced, how the economy was done. And if we need to change that fundamentally, we need to look over the design and say what else has to change to accommodate that, to make matches as fair and balanced as possible. So
Thank you very much.
We're working on it. I just don't have the answer on what the solution is going to be yet.
Thank you for the extra context on that for the players interested in what's going on with +1, -1 matchmaking. Tenkadelphia asks, while Paying God is here, any news on free XP boosts, the free XP tab on the boost menu?
Apologies. That was my cell phone ring. Because you can hear that sound anywhere, no matter where your phone is. Your phone can be in the couch cushions, and you can hear that ring. And my dog and my wife both hate it. Sorry, repeat the question again, because I was reading one and that started ringing, and I was listening to you.
Yeah, so it's around free XP boosts. The actual question was from Tenkadelphia. While Paying God is here, any news on free XP boosts, the free XP tab on the boost menu?
Oh, if we're going to bring them back to make them available?
I think so, yes.
Lady Obscura, can you give me a hint? I'm aware that we haven't been selling them, and I forgot all about it, to be honest. So sure, we can look to bring those back. I think part of the concern was this very persistent person. When we first released Cold War, not knowing how the boosters would magnify our stats and our simulations, we wanted to prove things out, and having the XP boost would change the acceleration rates based on people using it, right? So we wouldn't have an even set of numbers and data across the board. And I believe that's why we took them out temporarily. But I don't see any reason why we can't bring them back, unless someone hasn't told me something I don't know.
Okay. Another question on some of the older consoles, similar to the PlayStation 4 overheating issue. There is an issue with the Xbox. Either I can't remember. Is it the series? There's an issue with Xboxes as well.
The Xbox One X, the original Xbox One X. Again, we released a fix for that 2 or 3 weeks ago. That made it better for some people, not for others, and we're continuing to work on how to make that solve that for the remaining people.
Thank you. Sam Vincent Till, I'm so sorry if I messed that up, is asking if we're able to change the RNG back to how it was before. Are we able to talk about RNG at all?
I'm not an expert on that at the moment. I mean, there's been discussions and I've been involved with it. For World War II, I believe the RNG is very similar to what it was before. In Cold War, RNG works completely different than it does in World War II. So we can't give you a value that says RNG is between this and this because there's armor modifications, the trajectory of the bullets, the angling of the armor. It's not what it is. It doesn't work the same way it works in World War II. So there's no way we can say this is the min and max damage because even the min can be reduced further by composite armor, and other factors. Could we put World War II RNG back to where it was? I haven't heard that request, so I don't know if this is relation to Cold War only. But at World War II, I don't know why we couldn't entertain it. We would have to decrease the chance of penetration to balance that out because we reduced the RNG and increased chance of penetration in World War II, if I remember this correctly, if I'm not mixing it up. So if we change one, we got to change the other.
Okay. I'll do a little digging in the background and get some information sent over to you on that one.
Okay.
All right.
I know there's a ticket tracking it, and I've watched it and commented on it, but I'm just like, I'm not the expert on that particular aspect of how the engine code works. I'm just familiar with it.
Kessel Schlack asks about the bunny cam. I don't have bunny cam on today. She's been very naughty recently. She's decided that she wants to pull all of her bedding out of her house, put it all over the floor, and yeah, you guys don't want to see that. She's doing good though. We'll get bunny cam on Monday and see what Dolly's up to.
My dog does that with any stuffed toy or rope, so therefore my dog has no stuffed toy or rope.
They're a nightmare, aren't they? Okay. I'm just flicking through some of these questions here. Sorry if I've missed questions already,
I
guys.
have a couple of them. When are we going to get the World War II T-55A? I believe that's coming August. A little bit later in the summer. I have seen it on the schedule, so it's in the production pipeline. You should see it around the August timeframe.
Going back to the question about plus one minus one matchmaking. One question I've seen from Brogue one of I believe is in the Supertest or has been. Is a good member of the community anyway. We talked about team balance when we were talking about plus one and minus one matchmaking. The question is, what exactly do we mean by team balance? Are we able to talk about how that works, perhaps, or is that more of a complicated question for Max Chaos to delve into, perhaps?
Well, it's in that super long article. I think is still up. If not, we can drag it up. But all tanks have weights. We try to, with rules, make sure the weights of the two teams combined are as close as possible. So that's that plus some other things would mean by balance. So then when you start to see, well, this team has more heavies and this team has more mediums, that's when matchmakers saying this is the closest I can get into weight, but I don't have enough tanks in the pool that match the conditions for this match to distribute the heavy tanks across equally. Our ultimate goal for matchmaking is try to move to a class or in class tier matching between the teams. So if you look at what we did for co-op in Cold War right now, it's like mirror match, right? We just mirror the bots with the tanks that are selected by the players. Now there's not, with over 900 tanks in the game in World War II, we can't do that in a live game. You're not going to get the right combinations of that, but trying to mirror tier and class across the two teams is an experiment that we're working on. There's still other conditions like platoons. Whenever platoons are in the mix, that makes the matchmaker work even harder. So when you see those lopsided teams, that's what's called a soft fail, right? Which I'm saying, when I was talking about with the +1 -1 matchmaking, it's okay. 2 minutes have gone by and I can't make a perfectly balanced match, so I'm gonna have to make the best match I can.
That's really interesting too.
It's even more complicated than that, but that's the best way that I can explain it.
No, thanks for the extra kind of like context with that. For us, it's I wouldn't have known that really. So to understand kind of why the matchmaker does things like that is definitely helpful, and it is definitely, I'm sure, reassuring for the community as well that it's something that we're looking to improve. Sounds like a good idea trying to get a mirroring system, but I understand, like with the amount of tanks that we have and the variables with what players can select, it is a difficult thing to get entirely right. Hey.
I got one from the lady. Is it not possible to scale the armor viewer in World War II so those tanks show more variety in the color scale from Cold War? Because right now the armor scale across the whole game is the same because it reads from the server, and the server considers all tanks the same thing. But yes, there's definitely a ticket. I know I could even tell you the number, but it wouldn't mean anything to you. There's a ticket to break that up and set 2 different scales for armor viewer for the 2 different game modes.
Hopefully you guys couldn't hear my my dryer going off in the background.
I was gonna say, was that your dryer?
It was, yeah. Joys of working from home. In between doing a bit of work, I'm doing the washing for the house. Oh dear.
Someone asked to clarify on tank weights. Maybe a better word. We call it weighting. It's a rating for the tank, so it's not the actual physical tonnage of the tanks trying to be equal on the 2 sides of the teams. We're trying to get the tank rating of those tanks equal across the 2 teams. Thank you for asking me to clarify that. I can understand. Everything about this game is confusing.
You better. I have a question from Jagdale X. What's the reason that we don't have artillery in Cold War? As well, that he did a poll over on Facebook, and he said on that poll that there was a majority of people that actually favoured it.
Then all the Arty players must be hanging out on Facebook.
We hang out in different camps. Reddit hates artillery. Forums hates artillery. Facebook must love artillery. We're still a clannish people. We all stick together with people who share the same views.
So there is some applicable artillery especially for post-war, that were out there in the real world, and we did consider it. We decided not to for the initial launch, because it's just another balancing. It adds to the balancing problem equation, and since we're adding modern tanks, that's why we just released the 2 lines initially. We had more tanks ready. We could have released more tanks, but we're like, so much of this is new. We just want to be able to concentrate on these two lines, watch how they're balanced, and have that shape, balance going forward, rather than throw every class out there and artillery and smoke screens and hole patch kits, like doing too much at once, and then it's a spaghetti mess of trying to figure out the data to balance it, right? There's just too many factors. So I wouldn't say we'll never have artillery in Cold War. I realize it's very controversial, and it was billed, come play Cold War because there's no artillery, which I wouldn't have done it that way, but I wouldn't have marketed it that way because you can never say never. But there's currently no plans to put artillery in the game. We have a lot of other new, more modern, fun things to add to the game first.
Okay. Question from KB. Big question from her community. That's typically on Instagram and over on Twitter. Will the new Cold War maps be removed from World War II eventually, as some players feel that they're too big for the tanks in World War II? So I imagine when we have more of the revamped maps from World War II come back into rotation, do you think that eventually the maps that are built for Cold War will just be for Cold War?
Huh. That's the first time I've heard that request. Everything that I saw or feedback I was given was it was appreciated that we put those maps in the higher tiers of World War II. Putting maps or taking them out of the rotation is an extremely simple thing to do. So if the issue is Cold War maps are in too low a tiers in World War II, like they're fine if it's 8, 9, and 10, but we don't want to see them below there, that's a super easy change to make, right? If we got overwhelming from the community, we don't want Cold War maps in World War II, just taking them out of rotation is a super easy change to make as well. That's just the first time I've heard that feedback. So
yeah,
that's a community thing. Let us know. I can do that easy. I can have that done in a day.
All right, folks, pound my inbox. It will make it into reports. Oh, rip my inbox.
It will mean that you're reducing the map selection, and you won't see back-to-back maps, but you'll see them more frequently because it just reduces the rotation. They're also, I think they might be in the rotation right now, like two times for each rotation of the whole list. So we could also make that one. Yeah, the map rotation thing is, Brendan can tell you, like, it's just a file that he goes, okay, take this out, put this in. So that's a really easy change to make.
Okay. Kind of running out of questions here, but a couple of ones that I see quite a lot. I'll start off with Hammerbro X and Ryan Lum have both asked one after the other about platoon sizes. They would like to know, is there any chance that in the future we might be able to see 4 or 5-man platoons again?
I said, you can never say never, but we're not planning it currently. That was the worst thing that screwed up team balance between teams in the past, and then also the number of 4 and 5 man platoons or person platoons that were actually played was in the low single digits compared to the other 1, 2, and 3. So was not used by very many people at all, and it was just a horrible strain on the matchmaker because you get a 5 on one team and then it was trying to make up on the other team with smaller platoons, and I think it'd be a big step back for team balance if we put those back in.
Thank you.
The only real way to do that and be balanced is have it be platoons only, or refuse to matchmake completely if there's not an equal platoon out there to go into the match, which means people playing in large platoons could just sit there and never matchmake because there's not another one to match with it.
Thank you. Okay. Last two ones from me is are we able to? It's been a long time since the players have seen any balancing. Is this something um, that we have coming up in the future? Is it something that the team is talking about? Um, Especially in World War II, some of the World War II tanks players would be interested in seeing some more balance in there. Are we able to talk about this?
Yeah, we did Let's Talk Tanks last year, and it inspired a lot of good discussions. It was just you know all for all of you that know Jeff, the lead designer, it became a 40-hour-a-week job for him just to be studying the data, making the changes, getting it tested, doing feedback, writing the articles, doing the graphs. It's something we'd like to go back to, and we just had a meeting the other day saying, how can we bring this back? Like, how do we bring this back in a way that isn't just a huge time suck, which takes resources off of fixing other things, right? So met with our analytics department, and they're putting together a set of tools for us to be able to evaluate the tanks quicker and easier in a very visual manner, rather than pulling the data for hundreds of thousands or millions of battles, right? And trying to grind it and crunch it when doing SQL queries. So trying to look for a way. Liam Mintos is a part of that conversation to try to help be the spokesperson for that balance. Letting you guys know what's coming, why the changes are, so that's not on the plate of one of the designers. So we're trying to break up the work so that it can be done kind of in an efficient manner, and we can, give you guys a schedule of what we're going to do, what tanks, and we can stick to it. I really hated that. We started Let's Talk Tanks, and it just became harder and harder to maintain, and I hated that it went away. And we always had the intention that, okay, in another week or two, we'll have more time. And, in game development, the week or two never comes, or there's more time. There's always like less time.
No, it's tough. Yeah, it is tough to get that time, but absolutely, when we do get round to doing that balancing, I'm looking forward to being involved in that. So we'll see. We're definitely having those conversations. Got a bunch of tanks that we can look at, and we're just kind of discussing, where to go next with that. So I hate to say soon. I know you guys don't want soon. You want action. But in this case, I just.
But it's now. It's actively being worked on. We had the meeting. We've already gotten the first two dashboards delivered to us. We're evaluating the dashboards, giving feedback, asking for some more parameters, like taking out premium tanks or preferred matchmaking tanks, giving only the last 90 days of data. So it's an active in process to figure out what the progress will be and how long that will take and what resources, so that we can then say, hey, we're doing this, and live up to it, and stick with it. It's easy for me to do 2 tanks tomorrow, right? And then go, oops, I didn't spend enough time on it, and now we screwed it up, and now we have to nerf them, or or whatever the case may be. To do it right, I really want to dedicate the resources and be able to give the information too, not just say like, hey, we changed this, see what you think. Say like, this was underperforming here in these areas, and this is why we changed things and hope to get this result. And we won't get it right every time, right? Especially again with the number of tanks that are in the game, the variables of what you're facing in a particular tank, and what tanks you're facing, and what situation you're facing, because you're playing humans, are pretty great. So I know we'll make changes and have to revert the changes or make new changes to it. It's a science in the mathematical round. I'm not the one doing it, but certainly not a perfect one with all the variables.
Something similar to that, and the final question, as I can see the chat talking about it at the moment, is it's always been up there in debates with players. And we did also talk about this in our end of year message. Do we have any updates on potential artillery looking into balancing artillery at any point? I know it's a hard question to answer.
It's not a hard question to answer. It's I mean, there's a ticket, and honestly, the ticket is on my plate. It's assigned to me. I see that ticket in my queue, and I hate tickets in my queue. But I try to get rid of them. I try to get rid of them as fast as I can. It's such a divisive topic that it's hard to find a really good solution. And the ticket that's on my plate has a bunch of suggestions of we could try this and try this, you know, and we have artillery players and artillery haters in the company, right? And the comments come back like, you do that, I will never play this game again, from an artillery player. And you know, but then the arty haters are like, you should absolutely do this. And so, you know, artillery players are, you know, a good number of the players that make up our game. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna evict them from the game by making their experience terrible, right? It's a really fine balance. So it's you know, it's on the docket, you know, to get done. It was sitting up there with, you know, rebalance World War II tanks, which that's now actively being worked on, and that's probably all the same people that would have to be involved for us to do artillery. So I'm not saying no, we're not making any changes. I'm saying it's a task in the task list that we haven't gotten to yet, and that's as honest as I can be about it. It's not like I don't want to make any changes. I don't want to make it more popular. Like someone was saying something to me the other day. I can't remember what the context was, but they're like, it's very easy to make everybody unhappy, and it's impossible to make everybody happy. So you can't achieve the impossible. All you can do is get to as close to it as possible as you can.
Well, Pain guys, I think
I got a couple things left here.
So all right, let's go.
Proving to you that I am not the RNG expert, I had a little helper correct me. Okay. I guess Zorn 234 said, "Can you clarify in the effect composite armor its damage RNG in Cold War mode?" And I was corrected that it's not that it impacts RNG. The special armor has penetration and damage modifiers that impact the round's penetration and damage. In other words, it reduces the effect based on the shell type that hits it. I think there's more explanation here. So it impacts the min-max value that players refer to for RNG, as it would reduce the min further than what the RNG swings are. So even if we say RNG is plus minus 15, if that is a type of round that is defeated by that armor, you could possibly just not penetrate, or your penetration is much less. There's no bottom value that we can state there at all in Cold War.
Okay.
And then can we talk about new tank lines coming? Yeah, July is going to have the Italian heavies, and you might see the introduction of light tanks into Cold War around the same time. And Lady Obscura gave me the answer, and soon, with a smiley face with the tongue sticking out. She tried to get me to say that. I was actually talking to Mintos's boss earlier today about there's asked for a roadmap, and we can't really always publish things because of, you know, it would ruin marketing's plans or partners' plans. And I would hate to put up anything up like saying, okay, we're going to do this by this date and then not make it, right? Because, you know, priorities change, priorities shift. Like, you know, even above my head they do, right? Or something else that's happening in the game, or a new development that comes out. But content, I can tell you guys, we plan content really far into advance. So just like I can tell you the next two sets of map releases, you know, I can tell you the third one because we just had the meeting with Brennan on the other day. I just don't have it memorized. I can tell you we have new tank lines coming all throughout the summer and fall and winter, and through next year, all planned. And you know, they're in production. The ones that are coming earlier, mid, late summer, they're modeled, they're textured, and now they got to get rigged up by the tank artist. And then the tank designers have to create the objects that create the tank that is that for the game code to read and put in all the values for all the different stats. And then it goes to QA, and then it goes to Supertest and coming out. But like the models for those tanks are done. Like we know what's coming. So I was saying, hey, if that helps people to say, well, what's coming in the game next by being able to publish when we're releasing new tanks and new tank lines. I'm like, I'm all about it. We know that. That's of the few little things that I can guarantee in software development. Asset production with the incredible art leads and art team that I have has since we started this game has always been dead on. They've never let me down. We say, what can you do? They say we can do this much. We say, can we be these tanks? They say okay, and I can look away, and they're always there on time.
Stuff. Tanks in the bank.
Tanks in the bank. Did someone type that?
No, I just remembered it from a few weeks ago. It was a great
saying. We got tanks in the bank.
Tanks in the bank. All right, folks.
Why did I get hot tea on a 92-degree day when I was going to sit in a closed room for an hour?
I do not know. I also made a similar mistake. But we've been here for nearly an hour. We've been here. This is like the longest we've been here. So, and we got through an awful lot of questions, and I have got a lot to type up in my notes. So what we're going to do is we'll wrap it up here. Any extra questions that I've not been able to answer, like Nemesis GM, please feel free to send that to me, and I'll do my best to answer them. Otherwise, we'll be back on Monday for the what's the name again? The A43 Black Prince.
A43 Black Prince prototype.
And we'll be having a look at that on Monday, and we'll also be looking at some pictures of the revamped maps. We are going to be moving to a schedule of Mondays and Fridays for streams going forward, unless there's something special going on a Tuesday. So Mondays and Fridays will be your regular streams. And then if we have something special like the map stream with Brendan, then we'll let you guys know, and we'll do that on Tuesdays. Other than that, I think that's everything that we've got to talk about today. So with that said, thank you very much to Tankzars for coming and hosting us here today. In the background, doing his thing, probably on mute. Can we get a hello, Tankzars?
Hello. It's been a pleasure.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, we'll see everyone next time.
All right. And thank you to PainGod for coming along and answering all of the community questions.
My pleasure. Anytime.
Okay, everyone. Have a good weekend, and I'll see you on Monday.
All right.